The intro was the logo for the Heumann Perspective, with a photo of Judy Heumann in the middle with orange and purple concentric circles swirling around it. This video is a video interview between Judy Heumann and Annie Segarra. Judy Heumann is on the right and Annie is on the left. Judy is a white disabled woman with chin-length brown hair. She is wearing glasses and an orange and blue floral top. She is in her apartment with many photos behind her. Annie is a genderqueer Latinx disabled person with long curly black hair in two braids. They are wearing a black tank top and are in their room that has a white bed and a shelf on the wall in back of them.
Welcome back to the Heumann Perspective. And I am, guess who, Judy Heumann. I am really excited today to be speaking with Annie. So Annie, what has drawn me to you is the expansiveness of who you are. And for me, one of the aspects that I really value is your interest in telling stories. What made you begin many years ago, like at least 11 or 12, you can correct me if it was longer, to be pulled into telling your story and pulling other people's stories out? What do you find powerful about storytelling?
Oh my goodness. Well, first, I have to say that I literally am glossy-eyed and honored by what you just said.
True.
I'm so honored to share these conversations with you, and just honored by like everything that you just said about me. Like, I'm really, really touched. And I feel the same way about you. I feel like you're such an incredible person again. So I'm going to repeat myself the third time. Just so honored to have these conversations with you.
Mutual fan clubs.
But to answer your question, yeah, I think the age that I think I started focusing on storytelling, I was 15 and I'm 30 now. So about 15 years, I've been like documenting things in a video format on YouTube. And prior to that, I'm sure a lot of writing. But yeah, storytelling has always been my favorite way to communicate myself, and to record things, remember things, which is something that's very important to me. I don't have the best memory, so I constantly I'm looking to record my observations and my thoughts, record the things that happen around me, kind of like my own little historian. I just want to keep things as much as I can. And so aside from, the very beneficial mental health aspect and being able to recall things that I've experienced, um, back to storytelling as a form of communication and being able to share in these experiences with people who share similar experiences with me. And that would be mostly my communities of people who share in community-centered experiences. That would be the LGBT community, the Latino community, the disability community. So these are part of like very core identities, but we could extend that even further to like theater community, etc. But like these are like core to like my identity, things that are never going to change about me. So I do try to like storytell in a way that creates a sort of solidarity with my community. And this, I feel like being able to do that, being able to share similar experiences, it's representation. So it's it allows people to kind of exhale when they can see themselves in someone else's experiences. It's like, I'm not so isolated in what I experience. This is an experience that is common in my community, and that's something that is really a source of comfort. And then and aside from representation and relatability, then you have B, which is the ability to kind of create this sort of mentor mentee relationship with other people. Not that I consider myself a mentor because I'm constantly learning. But there are things that we can learn from one another. I find that a lot whenever I share things about my experiences, that a lot of people will respond to it with, I never considered that was an option for me.
I was watching a YouTube that you did with Lolo, and I loved it. And I loved it because it was so engaging and natural and spontaneous. And they were talking about issues of being able to walk and use wheelchairs. And I don't walk, I just use a wheelchair. But why don't you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think what I related to in that part of the discussion was people's wanting to give you suggestions about things like don't become dependent on the wheelchair.
Yeah, what a yikes. Yeah, I think, well, I think you got to start from the very beginning, which is why people have such a difficulty digesting, processing that ambulatory wheelchair users exist. Ambulatory wheelchair users being wheelchair users who are able to ambulate, to walk or stand or do a number of things that a lot of people don't assume wheelchair users are able to do, including run or dance or jump or anything. But people believe that wheelchair equates to your legs cannot move and you cannot move, and anything outside of that gets accused of faking, and that is a antagonization that I experience, and it's a very common harassment that ambulatory wheelchair users experience, and it can escalate to violence as well.
I also think it really means that people don't trust us. So the ability to walk sometimes short distances, long distances, to be able to lift something up, not be able to lift something up, depending on the angle that you're able to do things. There's so many variables. And a lot of times people are like in your face. Like, if you can do that, well, that means you can do this. And why are you asking me for this when I saw you do that? And it's very, it's harassment.
Yes. And it's a very
painful.
Weird conversation to have because you said they don't trust us, as in disabled people, but in their minds, they're like, so you're not disabled. You are faking being
You're
a
a fake, exactly.
So in their minds, it's not going to click that they are not trusting of disabled people. They're just saying, you are not disabled. You are a liar. You are a faker. So it is a really weird conversation to have because, again, it kind of like the root of it is a huge representation issue where, like, every time you see in a movie or very specifically in a novella where a wheelchair user gets out of their wheelchair, it's met with this big dramatic fanfare of like, dun dun dun, they were faking the whole time, oh my god, this is the disabled villain or the quasi disabled villain. But we never get to see almost never, there's like a couple of little occasions where and by little, I mean in quantity and sometimes just like small moments in media where we do get to see an ambulatory wheelchair user. But that's so rare. And some people, if you ask them, they'll say they've never seen it before in their lives. So that's really tough. I talk about it a lot because it's part of my daily experience, being afraid of harassment for something like that. Like every time, because and people don't understand the little details that like go into our disabilities. Like my backyard is okay because I'm familiar with the ground. I'm familiar with like where the holes are, where the hills are. I know where everything is, so I can care for my body in that space. But asking me to go to a random grassy patch, I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose my ankle in some random hole. I'm going to lose my ankle or my knee in some random hill that I did not realize was there. So familiarity is a big part of accessibility for me, as well as having a plethora of places to sit. And to circle back to what I was saying about my daily experience with fear as an ambulatory wheelchair user is, even though I can walk in small spaces like my home or my small backyard, I have to use a wheelchair to walk my dog every day. And sometimes, like, if I have to pick up some business and it's like down a hill in a grassy area, I'm like, oops, I may have to get up out of my chair to go get it. And every time I even consider getting out of my wheelchair in public, terrified, terrified that some neighbor who only knows me as the person who uses a wheelchair to walk their dog from outside their window can witness me get out of my wheelchair, and then it becomes some kind of neighborhood scandal that there's some kind of faker person who uses a wheelchair to walk their dog.
This is Pride Month, and I'm wondering, have you been involved in any activities in this month, and what have you done? And yeah.
For Pride, we're already in the middle of Pride Month, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm proud every day, so that's a very internal pride experience. I really felt good about bringing up the dialogue about marriage equality earlier this month. I've created a post about, like, we celebrate marriage equality in the US, but the conversation needs to expand to what the phrase marriage equality fails to include, which is the disabled community, and how we don't really have marriage equality as of yet. And that was a funny conversation because somebody accused it of derailing the pride conversation. I said, you don't think LGBT disabled people exist? You don't, like, we're there's two problems with an accusation of derailing, which is I am a gay disabled person, so I'm part of both these dialogues, and two, we're talking about a phrase that gets thrown around, which is marriage equality, and an acknowledgement that it doesn't actually exist yet. So no, disabled community is part of this conversation. There is no derailing that has occurred. But that's, a common opinion and response to whenever we want to talk about intersections, like being LGBT and disabled at the same time, is that, who said we're talking about disabled people? We're talking about LGBT people. I'm like, don't quote me on it, but I believe CDC said that 1/3 of people who identify as LGBT plus are also disabled. That's 1/3. That's a lot.
At least.
At
for
least.
various reasons.
At least, exactly. At least, because there's definitely people who are undiagnosed or don't even identify as disabled as of yet, because that's a whole nother conversation, is about the identity of being disabled and taking that on. What a conversation that is, because in my process, I've been disabled my whole life, but didn't really have the language for it, didn't have diagnosis, didn't understand that my physical experiences and my neurological experiences were not quote unquote normal. So I just tried to survive in the best ways that I knew how, but I would literally throw myself onto the floor trying to align my spine, because my back would be in so much pain, and I felt like something was out of place, which is probably some kind of subluxation. And by instinct, I was like, let me try to slam my back into the floor and try to fix my joint, just by instinct. So these are disabled ass experiences, but without a name. For so many people, if they're never given the language for it, right? It's hard to come across it yourself.
I think maybe another issue is when you have multiple disabilities, like you and others do, you kind of fit into many different categories. And I think you very clearly stated that disability is very important for you. That is a large part of your identity. And all of the different types of disabilities you have impact you in a different way. But your public persona is partly, I am a proud disabled person. And that you really, because of your exquisite way of being able to storytell, I think that's really also very important. So you can help other people think about who they are. And I think being able to tell your story to yourself is the first thing that you need to be able to do, not only to share it with others, but also when trying to get diagnosis or treatment or whatever it may be. You need to feel centered in your body, that you know what you're talking about, that we know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And then I think we can determine whether or not the people we're interacting with take us seriously and are willing to listen. And everybody is different. I want to thank you very much for sharing your time with us and sharing who you are. And we have, I think, only touched part of the surface of who you are.
Yeah, I just hope that one day things will be a lot more peaceful, and I'm glad that we have these conversations. Hopefully they're part of the machine. It's a cog in the machine to make that world happen. So I'm really grateful that we had this conversation today.
History won't forget us or try to minimize our pain, and so why